Next we will talk about when food gets spoiled. So see, if you can't try this experiment, you can take a piece of bread and just put a little bit of water just over a plate and keep the bread over that plate which is having a little bit of water. Just moisten it with water and then keep it like this away from the sun. Then after 1 day or 2 days, you can see that some green color spots have appeared, okay, on the bread. You can do this at home. Just take a piece of bread and put it on the plate which contains a little water, and then you just keep it in a dark place where there is no sunlight, okay, and then you can see some green spots after 1 or 2 days. So these green spots are what about the organisms are formed which are called what? Fungi. These are the organisms that are present in the air, you can say. So these green spots are caused due to the fungi. There's a fungal growth on the surface of the bread and they begin to grow there. So if we eat that bread, then it will be dangerous for our health. Okay, so this is one example of food spoiling. Other foods also get spoiled if we keep it for too long, right? So it can be dangerous for our health, and we should not eat those spoiled foods. We should throw them away. If you have kept some food outside for 1 or 2 days, then it will get spoiled. You can see a growth, white color growth on the surface of the food that you have kept without any protection outside. Then you can see that white colored layer of fungi has growth on the surface of the food, okay. So this is a spoiled food and that we should not eat because it is dangerous for our health. Now during which season the food will rot or food will be spoiled? During the hot moist season, like this season, no? When if you keep the food for long outside without refrigerating the food, if you keep the food outside in normal temperature, then because of that hot and humid climate, that the food will be spoiled very soon. But in the cold season, the food does not spoil very quickly. It can remain like this for some time, okay. Because why the food will not be spoiled during the cold season? Because during this season these tiny organisms like the fungi just now I told, they don't breed in the cold season. They also take rest during the cold season. This is their unfavorable condition, so they don't grow in the cold season, okay. So when they don't grow in the cold season, so they cannot spoil the food faster in the cold season. But in the hot moist season, they grow very fast, so they will spoil the food, and we should not eat those spoiled food. So in order to protect the food, different methods of food preservation are to be followed, right? So how will you keep the food fresh? How to protect the food from any sort of spoiling? This is called what? Preservation. The different techniques are there for preservation, but at home, as you know, we can keep the food in refrigerator. In cold temperature, the food is safe from getting spoiled, okay. If you can keep the food, ready-made food, inside the refrigerator, then it will not be spoiled easily because it is cold there. Also, in the earlier times, food were preserved by the process of drying and pickling. Drying and pickling is valid nowadays also, but the oldest method is the drying method, okay, because previously refrigerators were not there. So what was there? Drying method was there, okay. So drying is the oldest method of food preservation. During drying, what is done? The food is salted. Whatever food we want to dry, then you have to be salted. That food has to be salted. Salt has to be sprinkled on the food and they are to be sun dried. You have to keep the food under the sun after salting. You have to marinate the food with salt and then dried in the sun, okay. And for pickling, like you are making the pickles, all of you know that at home pickles are made by the use of salt, sugar, oil and vinegar with a lot of spices and all. So this pickling method is also one way to preserve the vegetables and fruits, which can be taken afterwards after storing in the airtight containers, and it can be taken for a long time. It will not get spoiled. This way of preserving is called what? Pickling. Pickling of fruits and vegetables, giving this with marinating them and keeping them in salt, sugar, oil, vinegar and lot of spices. This will act as preservative and protect the food from spoiling. Okay. Sometimes the food is also preserved in cans and bottles. This is canning. And also tetra packaging of milk. You have seen today's milk come in tetra packs, like Amul Taja, the square packets that we get, not square, actually it's rectangular tetra packs of the Amul Taza milk or any sort of milk that we are getting. This tetra packs also prevent the milk from spoiling and also keeps this milk fresh. Juices also comes in tetra packs. This keeps the fruit juices safe from spoiling. So canning and packing are also the techniques which are followed nowadays to prevent the food from spoiling. Okay. So how do we carry food when we travel? In earlier times, food was carried by the people by drying the food. Okay, after drying they can carry the food. And today's we use the coolers also, and some we use airtight containers for taking the food from one place to another. During traveling we can keep the food in the airtight containers, which is quite easily available, and we can take the food from one place to another by keeping it inside the airtight containers, tiffin boxes and containers. Okay. Now we will discuss about the food for the plants. Now, as you all know, the food for the plants, how the plants prepare their food by the process of what? Photosynthesis. So what do you mean by photosynthesis? Photo means light and synthesis is putting together. So in the presence of light, plants prepare their food. That is called what? Photosynthesis. See the term photosynthesis. Photo means light and synthesis is putting together. So when we put light together with other materials that are required for photosynthesis, the product is the food that is prepared by the plants. Okay. So what are the things that are necessary for this process? Is light, which is essential because this is photosynthesis. Photo means light. Carbon dioxide, water and the chloroplast. Okay. So what are these chloroplasts? I will talk about this first. These are the tiny structures that are present in the leaves. Leaves are actually of what color? Green color. Sometimes some different colors are also there in the leaves, but generally leaves are of green color. So this green color is due to the structure that is present in the leaves, which is called chloroplast, which contains the coloring material called chlorophyll, which gives the leaves its green color. Okay, so this is to be present during photosynthesis along with light, carbon dioxide, water. These are the four factors that are necessary for the process of photosynthesis. So what is formed in photosynthesis? Food is formed with the liberation of oxygen. Plants release oxygen. What they will release? Plants will release what? Oxygen. What is produced? Food. What is released during the process of photosynthesis? Oxygen. So this oxygen helps us to breathe. As you all know, we breathe by taking in what? Oxygen and giving out of carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is taken in by the plant and oxygen is given out. So plant purifies the air this way. Okay. So which is the essential thing that you have to remember here is the chloroplast, which contain the coloring pigment which is called the chlorophyll, that is present in the leaves, which makes the color of the leaves green. Okay. Next we will discuss that manure. Sometimes as you give manure to the soil, what it will add? Nutrients and moisture to the soil. Okay. So how will we prepare this manure? This will act as what? Fertilizer. Okay. So this will increase the fertility or the nutrient of the soil. So this is animal dung, dead plants, decaying matter, This can be mixed together. Okay, animal dung is cow dung. Okay, you can give cow dung, dry it and then give it to the soil. This will become the manure, which will help the soil to produce more plants. Okay, so sometimes manure is added to the plant, and this is also essential for the plant to prepare their food. Okay, but sometimes the plant do not take water or air or sunlight or any nutrient from the soil. So how will they get this type of nutrients? By eating the insects. So this type of plants are called what? Carnivorous plants or insectivorous plants. Okay, so see the term insectivorous. That means eating what? Insects. Insectivorous, carnivorous. Animal eating plants are called what? Carnivorous. Okay. Anyone who eats animals can be called as carnivorous. Like a tiger eat other animals, it can be called as carnivorous. But for the plant, this is insectivorous plants which will eat what? Insects, like pitcher plant and Venus flytrap. They will eat what? Insects. So they don't need the water, carbon dioxide or sunlight for making their food through the process of photosynthesis. Now we will see the different types of animals, okay, based on their food habits, what they eat. Like herbivores or herbivorous animals eat only the plants. Carnivorous eat other animals. Omnivorous eat both plants and animals. See, the plants can prepare their own food, okay, but the animals cannot prepare their own food. So they have their different patterns of eating. Some animals will eat only the plants, like I'll give one example: goat, cow. Some animals are carnivorous which will eat other animals, like tiger. And some animals which will eat both, like humans. We eat both plants and animal, right? So we are what? Omnivorous. And sometimes some animals will eat the dead remains. After the animal becomes dead, then this type of animals like vultures, some of the insects, the hyenas will come and eat the dead remains of those animals, which is called the scavengers. Okay, so they will feed on what? The dead bodies. And decomposers, who will help in decaying the dead matter, who will help in spoiling the dead matter and decompose the dead matter. So these are called what? Decomposers. So we have got herbivorous, carnivorous, omnivorous, scavengers eating the dead animals, and decomposers eating away or decomposing the dead matter. So the scavengers and decomposers are the cleaners of our environment. They clean the environment, because if scavengers would have been absent, then the dead bodies will not be eaten away. The remaining part of the dead bodies will not be eaten away. Then decomposers will be absent, if at all. Then what will happen? The world would have been full of dead bodies, because there would have been no decomposition of the dead matter. Okay, when any animal is dead and you leave it in the ground for some days, you can see after some days very bad smell will come from the animal which is dead. Because of this decaying nature of these decomposers, like bacteria and fungi and some worms also, that type of smell comes, and after a few days is totally decayed and it is destroyed. It is mixed with the soil, so that dead particles, dead bodies are not present then at that time. So decomposers have a very essential role with the scavengers to clean the environment. Next we come to the food chain, where we can see the living things are connected to each other. Okay, one insect is connected to the other insect, and then it is connected to the rat, because insect is eaten by the rat is eaten by the snake is eaten by the hawk. Like this way a cycle goes on, a chain goes on. This is called what? A food chain. This is a connection, interconnection between the living things, how they are eating and how they are being eaten. Okay, so which is the source of energy? Sunlight is the source of energy, and this is the way of nature's by making what? Us self-sufficient. In this food chain, what we can say that all of us are self-sufficient. And here one organism eats the other. Like grasses are eaten by insects, and insect is eaten by a rat is eaten by a snake, and the snake is eaten by a hog. And when the hog dies, they are decomposed by the decomposers, right? So this is called what? A food chain, which is a continuous chain that is present in the nature. And here what is shown, that all of us are what? Self-sufficient. And what is the source of energy? Sunlight. And when many food chains are connected together, this is called what? Food web. Like in a spider's web. So many thread-like structures you can see the spider's web. So like that type of web network, so many food chains are joined to form a network which is called the food web. This maintains the nature's balance. All are interconnected. All the living organisms are interconnected, and this maintains the nature's balance. And if at all the food chain is disturbed, then the nature balance will also be disturbed. Like for example, if all the tigers are hunted down, all the tigers were hunted, then no one will be there to feed on the deer. So tiger, lion, if nobody will be there, then no one will be there to feed on the deer. The deer's number will grow on increasing, and the deer will feed on the forest plants and the grasses, the leaves, and the deer's number will go on increasing. Their number will increase because no one will be there to eat them away. So many number of deers increased, and daily what will happen? The amount of food available to them will get reduced. The number of plants, leaves, grasses will be reducing because they will continuously eat. And one day will come, then all the food that they want, that is the grasses and the leaves, nothing will be left behind because the deer would have eaten everything. So deer will also die because of the lack of food. So each of the animal has its own importance in the food chain, and all are interrelated in a food chain to maintain the balance of the nature. Otherwise there will be disbalance. Some number of animals will increase and some of the animals will decrease, and so this will create a disbalance, and the forests and the animals will all be destroyed. Okay. So with this we end up this chapter, and I think all of you have understood this. If you have any doubt, you can just WhatsApp me in my number so that I can clear your doubts. Okay, but first of all, you relate this video with the chapter that is given already in the book, and this is a very interesting chapter too. So I think all of you will understand it easily.